The late afternoon sun spilled golden light through the large windows of Maggie's living room, illuminating the chaos of bills and overdue notices that had taken over her once organized space. She sighed deeply, feeling the weight of her financial burdens pressing down on her chest. Her husband, Mark, had been supportive, but the strain of their debts was slowly unraveling the fabric of their marriage. One fateful evening, as she scrolled through her email, a message caught her attention. Financial relief options tailored for you. It was from a debt consolidation company, and her heart raced with the possibility of a solution. After some hesitation, she clicked on the link, leading her to a profile of a man named Ethan Cole. The photo showed a handsome man in his 30s with piercing blue eyes and a confident smile. He looked approachable yet undeniably charismatic. Maggie decided to reach out, and within hours, Ethan called her. His voice was smooth and reassuring, instantly calming her nerves. Maggie, I'm here to help you navigate through this. Let's set up a time to meet and discuss your options. His tone was comforting, like a warm embrace amidst her turmoil. The following afternoon, they met at a local coffee shop. As she walked in, Maggie spotted Ethan sitting at a corner table, his tall frame relaxed yet poised. He rose to greet her, and Maggie couldn't help but notice how his crisp shirt hugged his broad shoulders. Their conversation began with numbers and options, but as they talked, Maggie felt an undeniable chemistry between them. Ethan listened intently, his gaze lingering on her lips as she spoke about her struggles. You've been under so much pressure, he said, leaning forward slightly, his voice low. You deserve to feel secure and happy again. His words hung in the air, charged with a subtle tension that made Maggie's pulse quicken. As their meetings continued, the boundaries of their professional relationship began to blur. Maggie found herself drawn to Ethan in ways she hadn't anticipated. There was something intoxicating about his confidence, and the way he made her feel seen and valued. Each session left her breathless, not just from the weight of her debts, but from the thrill of his presence. One evening, after discussing the final details of her debt consolidation, Maggie noticed the cafe was nearly empty. The atmosphere felt intimate, the soft lighting casting a warm glow around them. Ethan reached across the table, his hand brushing against hers as he pointed to a clause in the contract. The simple touch sent a jolt of electricity through her. Maggie, he said softly, his eyes locking onto hers. You're stronger than you know. You've fought hard to get here. There was a warmth in his gaze that made her heart race, igniting a longing deep within her. Without thinking, Maggie leaned in closer, compelled by an urge she couldn't resist. Their lips met in a tentative kiss that quickly deepened, a mix of desperation and desire. The world around them faded away, leaving just the two of them enveloped in a cocoon of stolen moments. Ethan's hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer as the kiss intensified. Maggie felt alive, the thrill of the moment washing over her. She knew this was wrong, she was married, and yet the connection with Ethan felt too powerful to ignore. In his embrace, she found solace from the chaos of her life, a heady escape that filled the void her marriage had created. As they finally pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed, Maggie was struck by the reality of what they had done. The exhilaration mingled with guilt, and she quickly glanced around the cafe to ensure no one had witnessed their moment of weakness. But in Ethan's eyes she saw a reflection of her own desires, a shared understanding that this was just the beginning of something both thrilling and dangerous. Let's take this one step at a time, Ethan said, his voice a low rumble. Maggie nodded, torn between the exhilaration of her new reality and the life she had left behind. The tension between them promised more than just financial relief. It was an entanglement of passion and betrayal that would change everything. The days that followed were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions for Maggie. Each morning she woke up next to Mark, the familiar comfort now tinged with guilt and longing. The memory of Ethan's touch lingered on her skin like a sweet perfume, intoxicating and impossible to shake off. Their kiss, raw and electric, replayed in her mind, igniting a fire within her that had long been dormant. Ethan and Maggie continued to meet under the guise of finalizing her debt consolidation plan. Each encounter was laced with tension, the air between them thick with unspoken desire. Their conversations shifted from financial discussions to deeper, more personal topics, creating an emotional intimacy that blurred the lines between their roles. One evening, after signing the final paperwork, Ethan suggested they celebrate her newfound financial freedom. "Why don't we grab a drink?" he proposed, his eyes glinting with mischief. Maggie hesitated for a moment but quickly agreed, the thrill of adventure overpowering her reservations. They found a small, dimly lit bar just a few blocks from the cafe where they first met. The atmosphere was intimate, the soft jazz music creating an inviting backdrop for their growing connection. Maggie felt her heart race as she settled into her seat across from Ethan, the glow of the candles casting flickering shadows on their faces. As they sipped their drinks, the conversation flowed effortlessly. Laughter echoed around them, and the world outside faded away. Maggie couldn't help but notice how Ethan's eyes sparkled when he spoke, how his smile made her feel alive in a way she hadn't experienced in years. The tension between them crackled like electricity, and Maggie found herself leaning in closer, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Ethan reached across the table, his fingers lightly brushing against her hand. "You deserve to enjoy life again, Maggie," he said, his voice low and filled with promise. "Let me show you how to really live." His gaze held a weight that made her breath hitch, and she felt herself drawn deeper into the moment. "Show me," she whispered, the challenge slipping from her lips before she could think better of it. The thrill of the words sent a shiver down her spine, igniting a daring spirit she thought she had lost. Ethan's eyes darkened with intent, and he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll show you everything." With that, he took her hand and led her to a more secluded corner of the bar. The intimate space was bathed in soft light, the noise of the crowd dimming to a distant murmur. As they settled into their new spot, Ethan's hand found its way to the small of her back, his touch igniting a trail of fire along her skin. "Is this okay?" he asked, his voice low, searching her eyes for any sign of hesitation. Maggie nodded, unable to find her voice. The air was thick with anticipation, and she could feel the heat radiating between them. As they spoke, the conversation took on a different tone, becoming more flirtatious, laden with innuendos and soft laughter. Ethan leaned in closer, his lips brushing against her ear as he whispered teasing remarks that made her heart race. With each word, he pulled her deeper into his world, a place where desire ruled and inhibitions faded away. Then, in a bold move, Ethan cupped her face in his hands and brought his lips to hers once more. This kiss was different, more urgent, more passionate. Maggie melted into him, her heart racing as she surrendered to the moment. Their mouths moved together in perfect harmony, and Maggie felt herself drowning in the sensation, the worries of her life fading into the background. As they pulled apart, gasping for air, Ethan's eyes bore into hers, filled with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. "I've wanted this since the first moment I saw you," he confessed, his voice husky with desire. Maggie could feel the heat rising in her cheeks, her own longing reflected in his gaze. Without thinking, she leaned in again, pressing her lips against his, deepening the kiss with a fervor that surprised her. The taste of him was intoxicating, a mix of whiskey and something uniquely Ethan that left her craving more. His hands roamed her back, pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. Suddenly, the reality of what they were doing hit her like a cold wave. Maggie pulled back slightly, breathless and wide-eyed. "What about Mark?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Ethan's expression softened, but his resolve didn't waver. "You deserve to be happy, Maggie. This isn't just about the debt, it's about you finding what you really want." His words sent a thrill through her, making her question everything she had held onto for so long. Maggie's heart raced as she considered the truth in his statement. The thrill of the forbidden drew her in, and she felt herself teetering on the edge of a decision that could change her life forever. The night stretched before her, filled with possibilities she had never dared to explore. "Let's take this chance," Ethan said, his voice steady, pulling her back into the moment. "I won't rush you, but I'm here for you if you want to explore what this could be." With her heart pounding and the intoxicating thrill of danger swirling around her, Maggie nodded. "I want to," she admitted, feeling a rush of freedom coursing through her veins. As they leaned in for another kiss, Maggie knew she was stepping into uncharted territory, an adventure that could lead to passion, betrayal, and the rediscovery of herself. The night was just beginning, and she was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, with Ethan by her side. The weeks that followed were a blur of exhilaration and chaos for Maggie. Each encounter with Ethan deepened their connection, drawing her further into a world filled with passion and excitement. She found herself stealing moments away from her life with Mark, exploring the intensity of her feelings for Ethan while wrestling with the guilt that clung to her like a shadow. One evening, as they met at a secluded spot near the river, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Maggie stood with Ethan, feeling the warmth of his body against hers, the soft breeze tousling her hair. It was a moment suspended in time, a brief escape from the reality she had been avoiding. "Maggie," Ethan said, his voice low and serious, pulling her from her thoughts. "I need you to be honest with me. What do you want?" His question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Maggie's heart raced as she met his gaze. In that moment, she was faced with the truth of her choices, the thrill of their relationship, the intoxicating pull of desire, and the reality of her life with Mark. "I want to be happy," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then you need to decide what happiness looks like for you. I can't be the reason you leave him, but I can't pretend this isn't real either." His honesty struck a chord within her. The whirlwind of emotions, love, desire, guilt, swirled together, leaving her feeling dizzy and vulnerable. "I never intended for this to happen," she admitted, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "But you make me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years." Ethan's expression softened, but he held her gaze steady. "You deserve more than just feeling alive in secret. You need to choose a life that reflects what you truly want." Maggie took a deep breath, the weight of his words settling over her like a heavy cloak. She thought of Mark, his kindness, and the life they had built together, but she also thought of the emptiness that had seeped into their marriage. The passion she felt for Ethan was something she had longed for, something she feared she might never find again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in twilight, Maggie made a decision. "I need to talk to Mark. I need to be honest with him about everything," she said, her voice steady with resolve. Ethan nodded, a mix of pride and concern in his eyes. "I'll support whatever you decide, but remember, it's about your happiness, not just mine." With her heart pounding, Maggie returned home, her mind racing with what lay ahead. As she entered their house, the familiar scent of home enveloped her, but the warmth felt different now, charged with uncertainty. Mark was in the living room, absorbed in a book. He looked up, and the love in his eyes pierced her heart. "Hey, you're back early," he said, a smile lighting up his face. Maggie felt a lump form in her throat. This was it. She needed to find the words, to bridge the gap that had formed between them. "Mark, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. Sitting together, Maggie poured her heart out, revealing her struggles, her feelings of isolation, and the connection she had formed with Ethan. It was painful and raw, but as she spoke, she saw the hurt and confusion in Mark's eyes. He listened quietly, processing her words, the reality of their situation crashing over them both. "I never wanted to hurt you," Maggie said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But I've felt so lost for so long, and I found someone who made me feel alive." Mark's expression shifted, a mix of sadness and understanding crossing his face. "I know things have been tough, Maggie. I've seen the distance between us. I've felt it too," he admitted. "But we can work through this. I don't want to lose you." The gravity of his words hung in the air, and Maggie realized the depth of their connection, one built on years of love, trust, and shared dreams. But she also knew that pretending everything would be okay wouldn't solve the underlying issues that had driven her to seek solace elsewhere. "I think we need time apart," Maggie said softly, feeling the weight of her decision settle over her. "I need to figure out what I truly want, and so do you." Mark nodded slowly, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and acceptance. "I don't want to lose you, but I understand. If this is what you need, I'll support you." As Maggie left that night, a heavy weight lifted from her shoulders. She had taken a step toward honesty, both with Mark and herself. She knew the journey ahead would be difficult, filled with heartache, healing, and self-discovery, but it was a path she had to walk. The next day, she met Ethan, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. "I told him everything," she confessed, her heart racing. "I need to figure things out, but I'm not ready to commit to anything yet." Ethan nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. I respect that. Just know that I'm here for you, whatever you decide. As they stood together, the weight of their connection felt both thrilling and daunting. Maggie knew that her life was about to change, but this time, it would be on her terms. She was ready to embrace the uncertainty ahead, to explore what it truly meant to be happy, and to reclaim the pieces of herself that had been lost. With a new sense of purpose, she stepped forward, ready to face the complexities of love and desire, knowing that every choice would lead her closer to discovering who she was meant to be.